You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Welcome back to RBLR Lightning. My name is Jake Ricker. Alongside me, it's my good friend and co-host Joe Zamataro, Matt Gannon. Guys, oh boy, the Lightning are in trouble. To put it simply, we had a rough two games, games 3 and 4 here to talk about. But before we get into the games and the not so great endings that we had, first and foremost, how are you guys doing today?
Hey, we're here. We're checking in. We're still Lightning fans, so could be better, but could be worse as well.
Yeah, games 3 and 4, they have made me literally physically ill, so I won't be a huge participant in this show. But I'm gonna voice my opinion where it matters this show. But overall, like you said, Joe, we're still here. We're still back in the team. Hey, we're not out of it yet. I'm not gonna be too Debbie Downer this episode. I'll try.
Well, before we get into the I think we'll do this a little bit differently. Instead of recapping game by game like we normally do, because let's be honest, nobody wants to sit here and sit through both of those games again. So we'll try to give you the overall themes of both these games. We'll look at what happened, try to figure out what the Lightning need to do moving forward here to try and make maybe a comeback like they did in 2011 against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And we'll try to break it all down for you guys. But at the end of the day, it was a rough couple of games, and it was frustrating. Let's start off with some good news, though, and then just on the injury department, the injury front. Braden Point did play in these games, so he seems to be A-OK, which is great to see. I still can't believe he's been playing normal. I would be shocked not to find out that he didn't have any injury. I'm sure he's playing with something at this point, but everybody's been on the ice and practicing. The only guy we're missing is Erik Cernak, of course, who had that head injury earlier in this series. Of course, we assume it's a concussion, but of course, during the playoffs, they really don't tell you anything whatsoever, so we don't want to assume anything. But Erik Cernak still not back on the ice practicing, and I don't expect him to be back anytime soon. But everybody else is back and playing it fully healthy. Guys, let's say this. Hedman, he's looked great these last 2 games ever since coming back from his injury.
Yeah, I definitely would say that Hedman has played really well. When you see an injury like that and not getting any information, you can just speculate. And to actually miss an entire game, I was thinking it would be something that you would actually see effects of on the ice. And I don't feel like that. He's been one of the players that have let the team down, and he's been skating hard and playing pretty strong. He's been productive as well for some offensive opportunities too.
Yeah, I agree. Hedman's been all over the ice. He's been moving quickly. He's had a couple of great plays where he was jumping up offensively and making great shots. I've loved Hedman. I think actually a lot of the defensemen have been playing well, especially offensively. Raddysh has been great these last couple of games. He's really grown up fast as he's had to, especially without Erik Cernak. So I wanted to give a shout out to Hedman and Raddysh specifically, who I thought have both played extremely well.
I definitely want to talk about Raddysh some more when we getting in, or maybe we could just jump into it now. Raddysh, I thought, had a really, really great 2 periods last night. I was lucky enough to be at the game and was paying particular attention to him. And I know that on the Saturday night game, he got his first goal, and it was a nice one that he ended up going behind the net and popping out front, uncovered and buried one. But then I also thought that he played very, very well for the majority of the game on last night for Game 4. He actually was a +1 on the night given with what happened, and he finished second most time on the ice, and he really did a lot to extend play, control play. He was all over the place, breaking up rushes from Toronto as well as contributing on the break for the Lightning. He was playing really, really well, and it's exciting to see because that's somebody that is going to be playing a larger role on the team as time goes on.
I thought Game 4 was actually one of his strongest so far of the playoffs, maybe even the season so far. He's had a short NHL career, but he's looked pretty comfortable in these playoffs so far. Game 3, I did find myself saying his name a good bit. I wasn't super happy with his game in Game 3, but he still managed to get a goal, a really nice goal, that one that is. But Game 4, he really tightened up defensively, I'd say. Of course, the job didn't get done, but I thought he had a really strong outing last night.
How about the celly that he had in Game 3 after he scored? That was a great one. It was much better than his first career goal because, let's be honest, he didn't even know he scored until later in the game. But it was a great celly from Raddysh. The bad news is defense wasn't a positive for the Lightning. In fact, it was a major issue. Guys, both of these games, the Lightning had leads heading into the third period. Now, in Game 3, it was a 1-goal lead. In Game 4, it was a 3-goal lead. And the Lightning, they blew both of them, plain and simple. Now, I know you give credit to Toronto that they played well, they took advantage. But at the end of the day, the Lightning straight up blew this. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this and what you think happened to this team, because quite honestly, I'm having a hard time putting my finger on it. And basically, everything went wrong for the Lightning, especially in Game 3. They were playing a near perfect game. They looked fantastic. I mean, this is a team where we had said, listen, they lost Game 3. That was a tough one, some unfortunate situations, which we'll get into in just a minute here. But if they play like they did in the second and overtime, they should be fine. They did that in Game 4, and that's why they were up 4-1. And then the third period happens. I didn't think I was watching the Lightning anymore. I don't know who this team was that came out on the ice, and it was just utter disasters. They could not do anything right. Toronto comes storming back. They take advantage of the Lightning's mistakes, and the next thing you know, this game's going into overtime. It's more of the same, and then I think it was just after the power play, they score and win the game, and now the Toronto Maple Leafs are up 3-1. Guys, what happened in Game 4?
If you want to speak specifically on Game 4, a combination of things I think went on there, and it's something that we've touched on throughout the regular season, things that we thought that the team needed to improve upon, and one of them is closing out games. How often did you see Vasi have a great game only for the Lightning to be winning like 3-0, and then blow coverage and allow someone to score with like 5 or 6 minutes left to break up the shutout? There wasn't a shutout for Vasilevsky until, what was it, almost January,
Right.
maybe even been later than that. And it wasn't really on him for a lot of the reasons why. It was blown coverages. And that happened again for parts of the third to allow some of the goals. There's also penalties that were taken, which, again, don't give the ref an excuse to use his whistle. The Leafs did a really good job of putting traffic in front of Vasi, who we've talked about this before. If he can't see it, he can't make the save. And the most important reason why I think that they lost, that they can take away from it, is they stopped playing the puck possession game that they had before, where they would take two forwards on the forecheck, grind in the corner on a puck that's dumped in, come out with that puck, and then continue to cycle and maintain possession. Instead, there's one shift in particular. Hedman crossed center ice and dumped it in deep with a single forechecker, and it was literally just handing over possession and allowing Toronto. It wasn't like it was in the middle of a line change, and allowed Toronto to come out of their zone pretty easily. And the Lightning were getting numbers back, but allowing Toronto to enter the zone. They're like trying to clog in the neutral zone, which is really tough to do against such a fast and dynamic team like you have with Toronto. And it ended up burning them. I mean, the play that Austin Matthews scored on, for it to go from it was a 3-on-2, and to go from one side of the ice, facing Vasilevsky on his right side, well, I guess technically his left side, to go all the way across crease and have one of the best snipers in the game, Austin Matthews, get it on his stick. That's almost an unsavable goal in my opinion. But that could have been prevented because Corey Perry was on him in the neutral zone. You don't give Austin Matthews any room, and you see what happens when you do give him room. And one of the ironic things about that is I was actually that shift specifically thinking like, man, Austin Matthews hasn't really been able to get anything going. They've been all over him. He's been falling on his own. I didn't say it out loud, but I was 100% thinking it. And then just like that, blown coverage, he gets his opportunity. And unlike a couple of our guys, when we got an opportunity in front, he buried it. He absolutely buried it when he needed to most, and we could have the Lightning could have closed out this game by, Stamkos had this chance. I think it was late in the second, where it was just him and Samsonov, and if he buries that one, you're up by 4, and I don't think that there's any way that you can muster enough energy to try to overcome that sort of a lead.
I mean, I don't know. With the third period that we saw, it might
true.
have been able to do it.
So true.
I don't know what exactly happened, why the collapses and back-to-back nights happened. I really genuinely couldn't tell you, but it just seemed like there was a lot of guys losing their guys. There wasn't enough pressure on the point. I mean, how many goals came from defensemen shooting from the point? I feel like there was no pressure on Morgan Riley, just nobody in front. There was just... I don't know if they were trying to play a cocoon, Metapod hardened style of hockey, but it just really was not working. The penalty kill has let them down. That was a huge factor. It was the reason they lost in overtime. It was a bad penalty. Game 3 was completely different. I thought that was a horribly officiated game. Game 4 was completely different. I will blame nothing on the officials that game. It was just everybody just checked out all at once. It wasn't we beat ourselves type of game. We just let them get back in, and we let them get every bit of momentum in the world. I don't know what happened. It's really hard to put a value to it, but I really don't think it can go unsaid without, I do have to point a little bit of a finger at Vasilevsky. At no point this series has he looked, above average. He has looked very, very mediocre, very human this series. And I get a lot of the blame does go on the skaters, the forwards and defensemen, but I feel like not one time this entire series I've said, wow, Vazzy stole that, or remember that save, or something like that. He has been of no part, noteworthy in this series at all to me. And I hate blatant. I'm not blaming it on him. I hate pointing fingers at him, but he, at some point, he needs to really step up, and I really hope he can in these next coming games. I know you guys probably vehemently just disagree.
A little bit on it, because he made a few saves in that game 4 early, especially against Austin Matthews, where like, oh my God, this guy's about to open up the scoring, and he didn't. Vasi came up huge, and then the ones that went in on him. Which one was it? I think it was the Morgan. Was it the Kerfoot? One of them beat him clean, but the other ones were like incredible tips. That maybe it was the
Morgan Riley one in overtime of Game 3. That one just kind of squeaked through him, right by him. I think that's the one you're thinking.
It beat him clean, and he had another one in Game 4.
In 3, he was looking rough, but he wasn't stealing any games for the Lightning, which he definitely has in the past, and when you kind of need him most, he didn't make the big save to keep the Lightning going. But I don't think you can just look at him as well. Some of these scoring opportunities were just too good.
So for me, I think it's partly due to the fact that Vasilevsky has been so good for the Lightning, and he has stolen games for them in the past, that the expectation for Vasilevsky is so high that when he has just a normal game where he did just okay, it looks like a bad game compared to what he's been able to do. And Joe, I think you're absolutely right. There's a lot of those shots that I don't think any goalie could have stopped. I mean, they were just great deflections and defensive breakdowns where there's not as much he could do. There were a couple that I'm sure he would like to have back, but overall, I think it's a part of that is the expectations that Vasilevsky has.
And when you look at his save percentage, it looks absolutely atrocious. But the thing is that a lot of the shots that he's seen are really, really high quality shots. And if they've got 5 people in front of the net, including, in between Vasi and the point man, including our players, and it ends up going on net, it's going to be really hard for him to see. They might shoot it 10 times and it only makes it through 2. But if one of those 2 go in, he's at a .50 save percentage. That's going to look like he's not saving anything at all, when realistically it's almost, it's like CNI shots that end up making it. And yeah, some of the Lightning players do have to position themselves better, either clear the guys out from front or block shots. Do a little bit, like we're missing Chernak bad when it comes to shot blocking. That's something that probably could have bailed Vasi out for a couple of the goals, especially from the point, that came off of these. We'll talk about more about the face-off losses.
The face-off losses have been a problem, but Matt, you mentioned the officiating and the frustration you had from that in Game 3, and I do want to get to that because that was a huge part of Game 3. You guys know me. I don't like blaming officials anytime. I think the Lightning absolutely blew Game 3, and that last goal that Toronto scored in the last minute, I think it was Ian Cole who was defending in front of the net. I might, correct me if I'm wrong there, but you just have to win. You have to win that battle. You cannot let Ryan O'Reilly just push you over and sit right in front of the puck against Andre Vasilevskiy. You can't do that. And all they have to do is win that little net front presence, and they're winning that game. So they blew that one to me. But let's talk about this. So, of course, Braden Point was shaken up in this game. It was early in the third period. Point is skating fast in towards the boards in the corner, and the puck kind of takes a sharp bounce and comes right back towards him. And it was Morgan Riley who was behind him, and he kind of gives Point a shove, and Point falls over. He's already kind of, low to the boards, and Point goes hard into the boards, I believe it was head first, or it might have been in the rib, because that's where he was holding after the collision. And then Riley kind of collides into him too against the boards. I think he did avoid him for the most part, but so you have the collision into the boards and then some contact after the fact too. And Point is struggling to get off the ice. He is holding his rib area, and I'm sure Lightning fans are assuming the absolute worst at this point. We're thinking, great, Point is done for the series. And chaos ensues after this hit. Kucherov just comes right in, which I love this, by the way. Yeah. Kucherov comes in and just tackles Morgan Riley and throws him to the ground. You have tons of guys pushing and shoving. Stamkos breaks out in another huge fight against Austin Matthews and absolutely kind of beats the crap out of him.
Pumped him.
He really did. And so all this fighting, Point leaves. He's helped off the ice. He leaves the game. It's originally called a 5-minute major, and it goes to review. And now I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. They come back and they say there's no penalty. I can understand you don't want to call a 5-minute major because it was a fast play. I'm sure he didn't mean to do it, but he shoved the guy over, and at that point we assumed major injury, and you've got to be smarter than that. How do you not call a penalty there? And then the worst part is the Lightning are given an extra 2 minutes and they go on the penalty kill. How on earth is it that you get a guy that goes into the boards and is shaken up, and then Toronto gets a power play? And again, it ended up not mattering because they killed it off. Point did come back, which I cannot believe he did.
And he played great when he came back too. I thought he played really well.
He didn't miss a beat. You're absolutely right. But how on earth does Toronto get a power play? I don't understand. And then Sheldon Keefe after the game talking about the Lightning were just being veteran players and
manipulating the refs is what he said.
Are you kidding me? What are we supposed to do when we see our guy go down? Shake hands with you? So as you can tell, I was furious after that whole situation happened. But let me step back here.
Joe's chomping at the bit.
let me get off my soapbox and let me get your guys' thoughts. Do you think it was a clean hit? Was it a bad hit? Should there have been a penalty? Take it away.
I mean, in terms of being a clean hit, I mean, it looks like he engaged Point before Point got to the puck. In my opinion, that it wasn't clean, especially because of the way that the play went through and ended up making Point crash into the boards the way that he did. I think that is a penalty. I also believe, according to the rules, that a penalty that results in an injury, such as this, ends up being required to be a double or a major. And I don't understand why it was overturned. I don't get it. I understand why the other penalties were called and why the Lightning ended up shorthanded. That completely makes sense, but none of that would have mattered if the original penalty was called. Because, like, look, you can't just go over and start dummying a guy. You're going to get called for it, right? I mean, if Kucherov just starts punching somebody in the face, and there wasn't something that started it.
I really do.
I mean, it's there for a reason. I don't want to be playing hockey and all of a sudden get punched in my face for nothing, right? The guy should get a penalty for
right?
it.
But when you see your guy go down and get hurt, what are you supposed to do? I mean, what are you not going to fight the guy?
But you understand, but you also understand the repercussions of your actions. And again, if it's going to be a 5-minute major penalty, you figure I'm going to get an extra 2, but I'm going to be defending my guy. It's well worth it, and it's sending a message. And I don't think that it was a mistake by Kucherov. I don't also think it was a mistake by the refs to call Kucherov for a penalty for it. It just is really unfortunate the way that it worked out, where the Lightning not only are down a man for going to the box, but they're down a man for Pointer being injured for a period of time, plus everything else that developed with them coming out of the box late. And I'll talk about Keefe in a minute. You can put your 2 cents in here, Matt.
I do concede that it was not a major 5-minute penalty. I do concede that, but at the very least, it should have been a 2-minute penalty. The way I see it is, it was not a intentional board, but when Braden Point did lose his own footing, I know Riley was pressing on his back. He was checking him pretty hard, but Point did lose his footing, and then Riley gave him another shove into the boards. I think if he let up and did not give him a shove while Point was already going down, it could have really minimized injury. Maybe Point just goes into the boards hard and gets up right after that. But no, it was, I won't say the worst case scenario, because Point did come back and play the rest of the game and game 4, but it was a pretty gruesome injury. I do think that, that extra shove warrants a boarding call. A boarding on a cross check, but whatever. No, it's not even whatever. It really did annoy me, but I do understand why we ended up with an extra 2 minutes. Props to Cooch. I do agree with what he did. At first, I was like, man, I wish he would have gave Riley a little bit more than that, but I didn't know that he had to go off and get his eye checked. He came back with a shiner. It was pretty good. One other thing to note is that Braden Point and Morgan Riley are good friends off the ice. They do train together. They used to be teammates together back in the OHL or CHL, whichever league. But John Cooper even said, like, there's not enough good words to say about Morgan Riley. He's a good guy. So I don't think it was a dirty play, but a predatory play, but it ended up being a dirty play. So I would have liked to see a 2-minute penalty called there, and maybe 4-on-4 hockey. Give us the extra, give us our penalty for what Kucherov did. A lot of people are extremely upset with Steven Stamkos, Maple Leafs fans specifically. I think first of all is because he decided not to come to Toronto and ended up winning 2 cups with Tampa, but that's a different story. But they said he jumped Matthews and he hurting a defenseless player, and Matthews wouldn't fight. He's got a surgically repaired wrist that he had surgery on 2.5 years ago. It's not still. But one thing a lot of people didn't notice is they're like, oh, Matthews was just picking up sticks. He picked up Stamkos' stick and was trying to skate away with it. I don't know and nobody really noticed that, but he picked up Stamkos' stick, started skating away with it. Of course, tempers are high, and you decide to do that, you better expect some punches coming your way. One interesting thing is that it's the first fight of Austin Matthews' career, and it's the first fight between 2 60-goal scorers. I thought that was really funny, but I don't know. Matthews, you can't be playing like that and expect, no punches or at least a couple shoves to come your way, but Steven Stamkos, he started pounding on him. I get, Stamkos got the jump on him, but man, tempers were high. What did you expect? You should have been prepared. Matthews is the king of starting stuff and making his teammates finish it. It's about time that he got his comeuppance with that. And Wow, you got me rolling.
You mentioned the fact
Just
it was the
wait.
first time 60 goal scorers fought each other, and maybe that's the reason why the teammates kind of allowed it to happen. Is because again, every time Austin Matthews gets engaged, someone else jumps to his defense. But with it being Stamkos, and Stamkos being a little bit outsized there as well, it is interesting that it was was allowed to happen. Real quick on Pointer, when he went into those boards like that, I thought for sure it was a collarbone. After watching the replay multiple times, I kind of feel like he did, maybe he toe picked, but I also feel that was because of the contact. But when he went into the boards, it really looked like Riley's knee hit him in the side. And I believe that's probably why he got up hurting and then went back down, was because he had the wind knocked out of him, which, you can try battling that for a second, but then with your heart rate being so high, you feel like you're going to pass out, not being able to breathe. And also could explain why he was able to come back, even though, he played pretty well, and he did, skate hard and fast. But you got to know that that's something that was starting to ail him. You don't take a hit that hard without it rocking you.
Did he even go to the dressing room, or did he stay on the bench?
No,
I
he
think
definitely
he
went to
did
the
go to
dressing
the
room.
Oh, did he? Okay.
100%.
Just for a
Yeah,
little bit. Did he even miss a shift? I don't think he even missed a shift.
I can't say he
they're
did.
they're on the kill, so I mean it was a little bit before
That's right.
before he
That's
had come
true.
out anyway. But I do want to talk about Sheldon Key for a second, because this is a guy that has gotten really good at
Manipulating the refs.
manipulating the refs, the media, the fan base. If you look at John Cooper, everything that he says, he's usually pretty open, and it's something that he's usually pretty accurate about too. You don't feel, I mean, maybe that's the lawyer in him. You don't feel like he's actually manipulating you, and maybe he is, but
But he
he's
takes
so damn good at
accountability
it.
sometimes.
I
I've never
mean, a
seen
lot
Sheldon.
of times. And with Sheldon, it was I don't know. To me, it seemed like he's completely playing towards getting like favorable calls or favorable coverage in the media, or at least giving talking points to the Toronto faithful that they can blame or rise animosity. And it's not really, most of the shit that he's saying is not based in reality, and it's ridiculous. It's something that I hate about this fan base, is that they just make things up and then go along with it as if it's gospel. And I honestly think they're the worst fan base right now in the NHL. I
There's a
think
reason-
they're horrible, and this feeds into it.
There's a reason why Jay Fresh has a stat. He took a Jay Fresh Hockey, big stat guy on Twitter, took a poll sometime last year, and Leafs fans won the most annoying fan base by a landslide.
This is not he did it the year before, and they won it by land. They always do. And how about the general manager barking at Lightning after the hit? He was yelling, and I don't know what he said. I didn't listen to it because to be honest with you, I was too furious to even watch any of that. Every time the Lightning have lost these last two games, I've had to do a social media detox for until they play the next game. And let me say this too, while we're on the topic of kind of ripping on Toronto here. They beat us fair and square. They took advantage and
in
they
game 4
capitalized on their chances. With that said, I can't stand these guys. I mean, it's been frustrating. And now Braden Point did come back, like we said, and he was playing really well. Then there was the no goal call that we also need to talk about, where it was Braden Point who was in front of the net, and the puck deflected off of him, and it was originally thought to be covered or just sitting underneath Samsonov. Point keeps jamming that away at it. Puck goes in. Fans are going crazy. Ref waves it off. They go to review it, and they're talking about it. A couple of replays. You can see the puck go in. It does look like the whistle came before the puck goes in, and they come out and they say that the puck was covered by Samson, and that's key right there. It wasn't that the whistle blew. It was that the puck was covered. And John Cooper, speaking of him being a very, calm-headed, cool guy, was furious. Cooper, I think, is one of the angriest I've ever seen him. He was furious that was called no goal. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, because to me, the puck seemed, I couldn't see from a replay a clear angle where the puck was visible. But what really drove me crazy about this goal is a day later, in the Bruins and Panthers game, you had essentially the exact same situation. Quick shot, puck is loose, nobody really sees it. The whistle's just blowing as a Boston player jams it home and into the back of the net. It's originally called no goal. They review it and it's called a goal. I don't know how those two situations are different. How is that one different from the Lightning situation where the puck was loose? It was loose enough to be jammed home quickly, and they don't call that a goal. And that's a major momentum swing. Again, it's not why the Lightning lost. Cooper said the same thing. It's not why we lost. They lost because they couldn't win a net front battle. But that's a big goal. And I don't understand why this was called back. I mean, it seemed like the puck was pretty clearly loose and it wasn't covered. What Samson had no idea where it was. He was looking up in the other direction.
Here's the easy theory is where's the situation room located on Earth? That's the easy theory.
It is in Toronto, but I'd like to think the NHL isn't that biased.
You'd like to think so, but like you're saying, Jake, I have no real understanding on why the Bruins goal counted and why the Lightning goal did not, because they were darn near identical plays. Granted, how the puck got there is a little different, but that's not what matters. It's about if it crossed the line or if it didn't. I think they prematurely blew that whistle way too quick, and they did make I'm pretty sure they did make an amendment to the rule a year or two ago about refs blowing early whistles. It's something similar to like if a goalie's helmet falls off, if there's an immediate, imminent scoring chance, even if the whistle blows or the helmet falls off, the puck can still it's still live. So I've got no good answer for you on why one counted and why one didn't. So hopefully Joe can clear it up because he typically is the voice of reason.
It was the spin the wheel, just like for goalie interference. Spin the wheel, see what happens.
So the wheel of discipline.
All right, so this is straight from the NHL situation room. This is the same thing I sent. Yeah, well, I definitely did pull the rule book up on it, and this is from the situation room. This is what I sent to you guys earlier as well. So I'm going to read the quote first. Video review determined that Brandon Hagel's original shot completely crossed the Toronto goal line as the culmination of a continuous play where the result. Let's see, hold on. Do I have the?
I think you have a different goal.
The previous one.
Yes, because this was a shot.
Hold on, one second.
Point and then point jammed it home.
Yep.
Vamp.
All right. So the other one was I can try looking for it and I'm not sure if I can find it that quickly. But what happened with this one was that the ref lost sight of the puck. Once he loses sight of the puck and he determines that the play is over, he makes a mental determination to put the whistle to his lips to blow it. It's when he makes the mental determination that the play is over that the play is over. And because the play was technically over in his mind, or even by blowing the whistle, the shot didn't come until after the whistle was blown. Technically, the play is dead. All right. And some of the other goals that we've seen, the whistle gets blown, but the puck was already in movement towards the net, ends up continuing into the net without further intervention from the shooter, and then gets determined to be a good goal because if you continued the play would have gone in if you didn't blow it dead. Now, two reasons for something like this. One is, as a goaltender, if you hear a whistle, all it takes is like a tenth of a second to relax your body just a little bit, and all of a sudden something can go in that you weren't anticipating. You act differently once you hear the whistle. But the other thing about this is not something that's reviewable. So I completely believe that the Lightning got absolutely screwed out of a goal on this one. It was a fast whistle for no reason. The puck, you could see it on the replay, it bounces in front. So there's no way that it could be covered if it's bouncing and there's an opportunity for it to be played. The Lightning just straight up got screwed. This is one that I really wish, all it takes is a tenth of a second longer, a quarter of a second longer. But there, I guess he was trying to protect the goaltender in this case. But it wasn't like there was a bunch of players flying in. There was one guy right, on the top of the crease, and it really affected the Lightning. But, moreover, the Lightning kind of screwed themselves by not capitalizing on some of the opportunities they had with the pressure. So while you can blame this one goal that was taken back on the on the Lightning losing, they had plenty of chances to
It was not the reason they
continue to
won.
increase the lead.
But I don't know. Can you blame that on, just not capitalizing on chances? I thought they had really good chances, and I don't think it should go unnoticed that Samsonov had an actually very good game. Despite that goal, should have counting. The Lightning should have won in regulation. Should have been 4-3 Lightning. Samsonov, throughout the rest of the third period and in overtime, was very lights out. He did come to play. I hate to admit it, but I think the Lightning got some really good chances, and he kind of stole that game. Yeah, there were other forces at play in helping stealing that game, but Samsonov was a huge reason why. So I won't pin it on the forwards just not being able to capitalize. I'll more so credit Samsonov in this case.
Jake, did you have something else you wanted to say regarding this goal?
Yes. Well, I just wanted to the bottom line, it's a horrendous call. But you know what is a good call?
Wow.
Heading over to RBLR Sports to check out our awesome merch that we have.
Got 'em.
Lightning, Rays, and Bucks, Rowdies inspired merch. Again, head over to shop.rblrsports.com and you can use code BOLTS to get 10% off of your order. The boots on, arms crossed is one of my personal favorites. The Tampa Bay shirt I love for the Lightning. Make sure you guys check over there and use code BOLTS to get 10% off your order. Links, as always, will be in the description, which, by the way, if you're not following us on YouTube and checking out the full experience of the show, don't forget to like and subscribe as well. But again, shop.rblrsports.com and use code BOLTS for 10% off your order. Now,
I needed that, Jake. I needed that. Thank you.
I had it ready in the chamber, and it was a fun one. So
Hey, I got to give Joe the primary assist there too.
Oh, that was one of those unintentional ones where it like hits off my shin, goes right to your back door, and you bury it.
Hey, they don't ask how, they ask how many.
exactly right. Well, so game 3 was a tough one for the Lightning. You had those situations, but you guys are right.
I did want to bring up something regarding both game 3 and 4. And that is face-offs. I mean, that in game 3, I have it pulled up right here. In the third period, the Lightning did win the majority of their face-offs, but once it went to overtime, they are at 36%. 36% of their face-offs in overtime. You're not going to win a game doing that. Being at the game, I remember looking up for last night's game 4. At one point, I want to say it was like 66% of the faceoffs were being won by Tampa. It shows that in the first, 69% of the draws were won by Tampa. In the second, it went down to 50%. Once you get to the third period, it went down to 45%. It continued to drop, and only 17% of the draws in overtime were won by the Lightning. That absolutely killed the Bolts. How many goals got scored off draws? I want to say 3 in those 2 games.
3, at least.
Way
and
too
2
many.
of them were in overtime. I think both were overtime goals.
We've hammered home quite a few times over the regular season how important these face-off draws are, and going from a position of dominating them to all of a sudden not being able to win in critical ones, especially when it's in your offense or your defensive zone. The Lightning won, 5-on-5 even strength. They won 40. Is this broken down by? That's by. Well, they only won 47% overall of defensive zone draws for the entire game. I mean, that's obviously it's a lot lower than. Oh wow! And when they're shorthanded, they only won. Looking at the stats here, you can pull them up yourselves on the game summary, and it's the most critical places to win these draws, and late in the game, they're losing them. And that was, I think, critical in not being able to maintain possession, plus giving them wonderful opportunities that they obviously converted with.
That's all. All I can do is it's baffling, especially you were talking about there, Joe. They were 60% in the first period of game 4?
More. Yeah,
More.
At least 66.
That's the shocking part, I think, for a lot of Lightning fans is like even you look at take game 3 out because it was close. It was only a 1-goal lead. They should have won that net front battle and they could have won that one. But especially game 4, how can you look that good and then just a completely different team in the third? And it's tough. And listen, the Lightning won back-to-back Stanley Cups. They went to 3 straight finals. We are a extremely spoiled fan base. Many people wait their entire lives. Some may never get to see their team win championships. This team has played a ton of playoff hockey. They have been fantastic. However, they are not even trying to go down with a fight right now. I mean, they look bad. They have blown it. They're not winning faceoffs. They're taking stupid penalties. They look lackluster. I think in that one game they were trying to just finish their check because they were angry about the point situation, and they let that get the best of them. They straight up look horrible.
But I do want to emphasize that this is third period that they're looking horrible. The other 2 periods, they've looked pretty good and have had some outstanding play through 2. It's, that third period is when this is the breaking down.
Okay, but what about the overtime periods? I think they've played great in both the overtime periods, and just, it was one bad shot that got through on both times. I think they were the better team throughout both overtimes. They have been third period collapses. Go ahead.
I agree with game 3, not game 4. I don't think they were good in game 4. Granted, that overtime was kind of short. I mean, a couple chances, and then they took the penalty, which they kind of had to take because they're about to score, and then they quickly score not too long after that power play expires. So game 3, I'll agree, but not game 4.
Despite it being the straw that broke the camel's back, do you blame Sergachev for taking that penalty in overtime? I don't. It was a clear goal. So
it looked like it was going to be a goal, and they would have been down 3-1 right then and there. So
I really hope he's not beating himself up over it. I know those Russians can be their own worst critics, but it was a necessary penalty.
It was, and again, like I said, at the end of the day, listen, 2 periods of hockey does not win you the game. You have to play a full 60. And the Lightning are not. And, because they are so good and have had so much success, we expect such a high level of play for them. And it's been extremely frustrating. They are not playing well, plain and simple. They gave us a lot, but this is a tough way right now. It's not over. It's not done yet, because guess what? We're all going to be back on our couches on Thursday night cheering on our boys, hoping that they can pull off a 2011 style comeback and win this series. But it looks bad right now. And for me, guys, I'm sitting here saying, if they can't even hold a 3-goal lead in the third period, how are they going to come back from down 3-1?
No, yeah, it's a good point on how they're going to come back. But I don't want everything to be completely doom and gloom with what we're looking at here, because there has been so much good that you can take away from it. And if you're still listening to this podcast at this point, because are
round of applause.
True fan and love the Lightning. Let's look at some of these silver linings, and that is, again, Raddysh starting to blossom into an NHL player. We saw some of the mistakes he was making when he first came over, how he got beat on the outside, and how bad that looked. He was playing really well in the A, and now he's starting to blossom. Nick Perbix, how well he's been doing all season long, and his transition into playoff games, he's been playing pretty well. I mean, he still looks just as comfortable as he always does, headmanning the puck and getting it clear from danger. And you've got guys like Jeannot, who I think has been playing very well. Corey Perry, who, he definitely blew a couple of plays, but for the first 2 games, he was the best player on the team. He still has some juice in the tank. Kucherov still is a magic man in the playoffs, and still really fun to watch. And you've got Hagel and Cirelli, who the combination of those 2 guys on the penalty kill, they had quite a few opportunities. One, Hagel should have had a breakaway, and they had to haul him down, and he ends up getting a penalty shot. It isn't all bad. It's if they can get back to being able to close out games instead of on their heels waiting for the game to come to them. Continue to be aggressive, and this is a good team that we have. We still have a really good core, and I think that they do have the ability in them to still get this done, at least for Game 5.
And if I can offer a little bit more consolation for us all, at least we are playing the biggest choke artists in the league, maybe in sports. I mean, no more than 2 years removed from the Maple Leafs choking a 3-1 series lead against Montreal. Granted, Montreal wasn't as good of a team. They could be a little bit more underestimated, and this is a much better Toronto team, but the Tampa Bay Lightning are a much better team. So I do think it's completely possible. I've not given up hope one bit yet. I think they've been playing much better than Toronto 5-on-5. So if they can just shore it up a little bit and play a full 60 minutes, it's for sure not over. Everything is still going to plan by me. I predicted Bolts in 7, so I guess we only have one way to get through this, and it's gonna be fun playing Boston in the second round.
It's never over until the one team wins 4 games. And the clock hits zeros. The Lightning absolutely have a chance to do it, and like you said, Joe, they've shown they can do it. I mean, they dominated the first 40 minutes of Game 4. All they had to do was finish the third. Even if they gave up 1 or 2 goals, but still finish strong, and they win that, they could easily be up 3-1 right now. They can absolutely do it if they keep playing the way they have, but just finish it. Finish it. That's all I ask. Just finish it. Get back into this one. Take it one game at a time and pull off the comeback. It's never over until it is over. But I will say this. Even if when we come back here next week to talk and it is over, listen, the Lightning, they are always Stanley Cup champions and etched in their names into that trophy forever. And
they are a dynasty.
They are a well, they almost
nope.
at the end, but a lot of success. You're right, and it's been a fantastic ride with this team. I hope it's not over. I don't think it's over, but it's a tough road ahead for the Lightning, no question about it. So that's going to do it for us in today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on social media at RBLR Sports for all of the great podcasts. If you want to go check out the Rays one as well, as the Rays are playing some great baseball right now. You can follow the Lightning specifically at RBLR Lightning. And then again, don't forget to like and subscribe right here on the YouTube channel so you don't miss out on future episodes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Go Bolts!
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.